Good evening. Welcome to Tackle Talk Live, third edition. Want to welcome everybody to the Searcher Galley, and we're glad you're with us today. Just want to tell everybody that we're healthy, the crew's doing great. Complying with the stay-at-home orders with an occasional bike ride and some exercise, and we're complying with all the stay-at-home orders, and we are planning on having the boat ready to go on June 1st or the first week of June, so that if there's some fish and some people around, we'll be available to start the 2020 season. Our schedule's the same, still taking reservations, and we're looking forward to 2020. We are planning on departing on our first trip at the end of June over the weekend. But like I said, we're going to be ready to go the first week in June, and that is, of course, we will be complying with public health department regulations and guidelines. The Sport Fishing Association of California will be submitting a back to work plan to the public health department here soon, so that we can get back to work and get back to fishing. And hopefully, if things continue to go the way that they are with this virus, then everybody will be up and running in no time. So, with that said, if you're interested in making a reservation, you can call Celia in the office. We're still working and taking reservations, or you can go to searchersportfishing.com and book online. We're pretty confident that there's plenty of bluefin tuna around, and so that's probably what we're going to be keying on at the beginning of the season. So, with the last Tackle Talk, we had multiple questions about how to pair a certain reel with a certain rod, and so we're going to address that today. We've got some seeker rods here that will cover the line classes that you would need on trips of up to 8 days in length. And so we're going to get started with the lighter outfits. There's a couple examples. This is the Seeker series and the Super Seeker series 670, and it is a 7-foot rod, which is good for casting live baits. And the Classic series is with a different type of glass and composite. All of these rods have fiberglass and graphite, so it's a composite, and they're really tough and durable. And so the Classic series is, roughly, in the $150 to $200 range, and then the Super Seeker series is in the $300 to $400 range. Different type of glass, different components, guides and reel seat, and out of pocket, it's an initial investment, but these rods are going to last you a lifetime because they're built for durability and So yeah, the out-of-pocket expense is considerable, but like I said, these rods, all of these rods are, you know, they're going to last you a lifetime, and they have a great warranty too. So if something happens, you can get them replaced. So 670 is the model number, and you can with any of these rods, you can purchase just the blank and the components that go with it. If you want to venture into the rod wrapping hobby that a lot of people do, I spent some time on the phone with Rick from Seeker Rods, and they are busier than heck just selling blanks and components because with all the time that we have on our hands, there's plenty of people that are making their own rods. So that's a lot of fun, and so that option is there too. And I want to also point out that Fisherman's Landing Tackle has supplied us with these props. Our sponsors at Accurate Products and Penn Reels have supplied us with reels, and so we're grateful for their support. And so the guys at Fisherman's Landing Tackle provided us with these rods today. So 25 to 40 pound test, 20 to 40 pound test, this 670, 7 foot. So you're going to use this is a Valiant 600 Accurate Products reel, 2-speed, that with 60 pound braid on it, 60 to 80 pound braid. And you could put a 20 to 40 pound top shot of monofilament on this reel, and this reel would match up with this rod perfectly. And so don't forget that when you're putting a top shot of monofilament on, that your fluorocarbon should match the line class of your monofilament top shot. So a 670 Seeker, and you can go to your local tackle store and pick one of these up. So that's 20 to 40 pound test. So the next series of rods, this is these are the Classic series and the Super Seeker series, and so this is a 7660, 50 to 80 pound, and so this is your 50 to 80 pound rod that can be paired with a 2-speed reel. And so the same thing applies with these rods. They're in the $400 to $550 range. And once again, you're purchasing this rod, and it's going to last a lifetime. So 50 to 80 pound. These are also 7 foot. So that you have a little bit longer rod that's good for casting live bait. These would be great for fishing wahoo and throwing artificial lures or bombs or wahoo lures. So this would be a great rod for that. And so we have another Boss Series Accurate 600 2-speed reel, and this has also got 80 pound, probably it has 80 pound braid on it, and so you're gonna put 50 to 80 pound test on this reel and pair it up with this rod. And so you have a couple choices. And all the rod manufacturers have the different components, different glass, different types of reel seats, and so you can pick a length that you're comfortable with. And maybe it's 6.5 foot, or maybe it's 6 foot, or 7 or 7.5 foot. And so there's several manufacturers out there to choose from. So you're going to have a 2-speed reel and 50 to 80 pound test. It's got 80-pound braid, and then your top shot goes on the top of that with your fluorocarbon option for live bait or for artificial lures. This would be a great one for yo-yo lure for fishing for yellowtail too. 50 or 60 pound test, and it's a 7-foot rod and lots of backbone, and you can pull really, really hard on this style of rod. So great for yo-yoing as well.
Question about a spinning reel on a 6-day trip.
Spinning reel on a 6-day trip. Well, there are some incredible options nowadays with spinning reels. Penn and Accurate and Shimano have spinning reels that are made for saltwater offshore fishing, and we occasionally get people that bring those, and these rods wouldn't match one of those spinning reels. You want to get a rod that matches a spinning reel. They have larger guides on them, and so you would want to make sure that if you're using a spinning reel that you have the correct rod for it. Like I said, that in the last probably 5 or 6 years, there's been reel manufacturers that offer a offshore saltwater reel that is durable and lasts a long time and can stand up to heavy fish. We're so prone to fishing with conventional reels that we don't use spinning reels that often, but they certainly have their place. I wouldn't want to catch a 100-pound tuna with a spinning reel, but if they're 20 to 30 pounders, then we've seen people have success with them, and they're they're good for fly lining baits. Those spinning reels, you can really get a live bait out away from the boat with a spinning reel. I think in the past they weren't as durable, and so we don't see them that often, but we're definitely seeing them a little bit more regularly now. So the next set of rods are the 80 to 100 pound or 60 to 100 pound. So we have this OSP 1x3. It's a 7-foot 3-inch rail rod, and that's what we have on the Searcher for loaner gear. And then there's the Super Seeker series, and this is Super Seeker 7-foot 1x3, and it could also be used as a rail rod. And you're talking about 400 to 500 and $550 to $650 for a Super Seeker. That's retail, and the components are different. The fiberglass and graphite throughout the series are the same, but the components are different. The guides are different. The reel seat is different. And so this is your 60 to 100 pound outfit, and several applications. We have this Penn Fathom 60 that has 80 pound line on it, 100 pound braid, and this is something that we would use at Guadalupe Island as a rail rod for larger yellowfin tuna. It could be used as a trolling outfit. It could be used as your dropper loop outfit for fishing the bottom with 80 pound test. And so you want to pair these two options, 60 to 100 pound test, with a large 2-speed reel. Like I said, this is a Penn Fathom 60, very durable, and works really well, casts really well, and of course Accurate and Penn have bigger outfits, like we talked about with the last one of the last tackle tip Thursdays. We talked about a heavy outfit, and of course Shimano has Talicas, and so there's plenty of options for a heavy outfit, 60 to 100 pound test. Great rods for that. So that's the 3 line classes that we talk about with 20 to 40 pound 7-foot rods, and they work really well. And we're going to open it up to some questions, if there's any questions.
Any recommendations on rods for grouper or snapper from somebody in Florida? Just looking for some West Coast recommendations.
Well, I'm not sure what line class. If you're fishing, if the grouper that I'm thinking about, you're probably going to want 60 to 100 pound, because grouper are really tough, and you're probably fishing the bottom, and so you would want one of these 60 to 100 pound. This is an OSP 1x3 7'3" rod by Seeker, and the Super Seeker series would also work for that 60 to 100 pound class line, going to the bottom with a large sinker and fishing for grouper, dropper loop style.
Best setup for large tuna.
Best setup for large tuna. Well,
They used cow, but I didn't.
The large 2-speed reel with the Super Seeker 60 to 100 pound test would, for a large tuna, up to 300 pounds. These rods are awesome. You would get various opinions about length from different manufacturers or tackle reps, but I think all in all, a 7-foot rod with 80 pound test. These rods could be used as your kite outfit too, with an Accurate Products twin drag 50, or the Penn International 32 speed would be a great reel to pair this rod with for large tuna.
What would you consider the perfect outfit for fly lining an anchovy?
Perfect outfit. Well, the 670 with 25 pound test, and it doesn't have to be a 2-speed, but you could get a 25 to 40 pound class reel. This 670 is awesome for casting an anchovy. It's lightweight. It's 7 feet long, so you can get some extra distance with that length of a rod. And so this 670 with 25 pound test would be perfect for fishing with an anchovy.
How far should you be able to cast a live bait?
Wow, that's a great question. You know, if you can get a live bait out 25 to 30 feet out away from the boat so that it swims into the bite zone, then you're doing great, 25 to 30 feet out. And that takes practice. You know, some guys that customers of ours that practice casting out in their backyard or out in the alley, they use a clothespin or a couple ounce torpedo sinker and 20 or 25 pound test, and they will spend some time out in the backyard casting something light so that you get that fly line bait out there a ways. So that would be 20 to 30 feet out, so that you're getting it out away from the boat would be optimum.
Steve Carson really wants to know what you think about the chances for catching an albacore this year.
Well, Steve, I'm not one for predicting albacore because they're just so elusive. I think we spoke about this in our last tackle talk. We have been getting reports before the virus impacted everybody about longliners outside of Guadalupe Island there, 300 or 400 miles, seeing signs of albacore on their long lines. So they're certainly, they're out there, and I guess it depends on water conditions. Right now, the last time I was out, you know, it was in the low 60s, and of course we're in tight to the coast, but if the water temperature were to stay in that range, then I would say that we have a chance. I certainly hope so. That would certainly increase the interest for everybody if some of those long fins were to show up, and I'm sure that when things get rolling and boats are going out and looking for fish, that they're going to have trolling lures out, and so by in June at some point in time we're going to have a clear picture of what the water conditions are, and it's all based on that. It's all based on water conditions, and so we'll hope to see them this year.
How should we prepare for tuna in 2020 on a budget?
Well, that's a great question. I know as far as Searcher is concerned, you certainly can set up a payment plan with Celia or Callie in the office. We can make it so that your credit card gets charged monthly, and you can tell us how much you want placed on your credit card, so it's kind of like a layaway plan. You can purchase the trip and pay a little at a time, and if you don't have the budget to go out and purchase a brand new rod and reel, if you specify that you need some loaner gear, then we'll be happy to provide you some loaner gear that will help with that budget, and so that would be a solution too. That way, if you don't, like I said, if you don't have the funds to go out and purchase a brand new rod and reel combo, then we certainly would be happy to loan you some gear to help with that.
Does anyone still use a harness, or is it all rail rods?
I have not seen anybody use a harness in a really long time. So, you know, the old saying, the rail is your friend. And we're not too concerned about IGFA records like we used to be in the past. And so, you know, let the boat do part of the work for you. And so that, you know, this OSP 1x3 is a perfect example of the rail rod that with a heavy 2-speed reel on, or you know, even with 40 pound and a 2-speed, you know, we encourage people to let the rail help out, and it takes a little bit of the burden off of you physically, and can help out a lot. So we don't see harnesses very often. We certainly see rod belts, and those are something that helps everybody out, and but we certainly don't see harnesses like we used to.
Should a rail rod be paired to your height?
It can be. I think that I don't think your height is that big a factor when it comes to purchasing a rail rod. I think it's more about making sure that you have the correct reel with that rod, and I don't think that your height is that big a factor that you would need to consider an adjustment in the length of the rod based on your height.
Best line setup for yellowtail and football size yellowfin.
Best line setup? Well, for yellowtail, probably 25 to 40 pound test, and you can use a standard J hook, and you can fly line a sardine, either nose hooked or belly hooked. A lot of times in July, if there's a lack of tuna around, we're focusing on kelp patties that can produce some really, really good yellowtail fishing. And as far as football size yellowfin tuna, the same sort of line class would apply for that. 25 to 40 pound test, and a small J hook, and you could match your fluorocarbon to your mono and a live sardine. There are times on kelp patties for yellowtail, and also for football size yellowfin tuna, that you know, artificial lures come into play. So for yellowtail, you know, a 6X Junior heavy blue and white that we've talked about in the past with 40 pound test, and also you know, the dart style artificial lures with 30 or 40 pound tests for yellowfin tuna certainly can be an exciting way to catch small yellowfin tuna with skipping a jig across the surface. And so that would be the line class that I would use for those two species.
Is the tackle shop open?
You know, the tackle shop is open. They are doing to go. So you can call up and talk to one of the guys in the Fisherman's Landing Tackle and tell them what you're interested in purchasing, and they will put an order together for you. And they're doing curbside. They'll meet you in the parking lot and bring you what your order is, if they have it in stock. If they don't have it in stock, then they're certainly can place an order for you and have it within a few days. And so curbside, yeah, to go fishing tackle, they are open. I think it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 2, so you can call Fisherman's Landing Tackle and talk to any one of the guys that's working up there, and they're open for business.
In your opinion, what is the ultimate railroad?
The ultimate railrod. Well, you know, we just got these a couple years ago, these 1x3 7'3" railrod from Seeker, and this is an OSP, and paired with this Penn 60 Fathom has been the rod and reel combo that we've used now at Guadalupe Island for the past couple of years, and it's proven. It's durable. We've put them through the riggers with up to 120-pound tuna, and you know, they're almost like they came out of the wrapper. They're made really well and very durable. This has got a little wear on it from the reel, but you know, this rod right here I think is 3 years old, and you know, we use them a lot, and so this is a perfect setup for a rail rod. OSP 1x3, it's 7'3", and works really well.
Can you go over some brands of braid?
Braid. Okay, Iserline makes Spectra, and Iserline has been a sponsor of Searcher now for multiple decades, going back, I'm sure, 25 years, maybe more than that. And they've been an awesome sponsor, providing us with monofilament and Spectra. And if you come on an Iserline trip, then you know, bring your reels with line on them, and you can get a free spool up or top shot from us on an Iserline trip. So Iserline is really good. There is Power Pro is another braid manufacturer, and boy, I'm drawing a blank on that right now. Berkeley has braid as well, and Penn has braid. I think they're probably associated. So Penn and Berkeley has braided line that you can purchase. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on that, but those three manufacturers have braid that you can purchase. And we've talked about in one of our tackle talks about you know, rotating your braid on your reels. If you missed out on that, if you take and rotate your braid on your reel, then that'll you know, flip-flop it on your reel so that the top is on the bottom and the bottom's on the top, and you can reference one of our tackle talks to get that process down, so that your braid will last a little bit longer and be fresher. So that's a tip from us about rotating the braid on your reel so that you start fresh.
Shigo Fish has a question. For single speed setup, do you prefer lever drag or star drag for fly lining? And same question, but for jigs.
So, you know, if I'm getting a single speed outfit, you know, I've had really good success with star drags. Lever drags are great because they have bigger drag washers in them, but I've had good success with casting live baits with star drag reels. But nowadays you know, the real manufacturers, they all cast so well because they're lightweight. And so I guess it'd be a personal preference whether you were to go with a star drag or a lever drag. So for lures, it's kind of the same. You know, the manufacturers these days have done such a fantastic job at making a reel that it casts really, really well. So pick a manufacturer that you have had good success with, and they all cast really, really well. I think that that's probably one of the standards that the reel manufacturers have nowadays is castability. How does it cast? And they're always improving and making things, making reels so that they cast better.
Do you have a recommendation for hollow or solid braid?
You know, that's a personal preference. I know that, you know, the hollow is easier to make connections with hollow rather than solid. For particularly wind-on leaders and heavier fish, the hollow seems to be the preference that we see with our clients. So I think that it kind of depends on what fish you're targeting. So we see hollow braid on trips where you have a chance to catch a bigger fish because of the connection. And, you know, there's the Sato connection for crimping, and then you have wind-on leaders that are pre-made that would apply to hollow braid. So it's a personal preference, and I think that that would be my opinion.
What should I spool on a Talica 25 for bluefin?
Talica 25 is a great reel. Talicas are kind of like the Cadillacs. That and Accurates are great reels. Talica 25. I'm thinking that you're going to have 80-pound Spectra, and then you're going to have a top shot of 50 or 60-pound monofilament with the same size fluorocarbon to match. And you know, it's a personal preference for everybody, whether you take a 25-yard spool of fluorocarbon and attach that to your braid, which there's no stretch involved in that. My personal preference would be to have, you know, 50 to 75 feet of monofilament, and then I'm putting a 3 or 4 foot piece of fluorocarbon on the end of that. So 80 pound braid and 50 or 60 pound top shot for bluefin tuna. And you could use that reel for fly lining a live bait during the daylight hours, and you could also use that for flat fall at night with you know, 100 to 200 pound mono on your leader on your flat fall, and that Talica would be great for either application.
Do you have a recommendation for a rail rod?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, this OSP 1x3 7'3" rod has been a fantastic rail rod for us. They work really, really well, and you can pair it with 60 to 100 pound test rated reel. This is a Penn Fathom 60 with 80 pound test, works really, really well. So an OSP 1x3 works really great. And of course, the Super Seeker series is just a phenomenal rod with great components on it, and this is also a 1x3. Super Seeker 1x3. This is a 7-foot.
Howard wants to know if OPA is always an incidental catch, or do you sometimes target them?
In our experience, that it's an incidental catch. You're drifting along, and somebody goes deep and uses either a sinker or a lure or something like that, and they get down, 150 to 200 feet and get a bite, and it's a surprise when you get it up to color that you've got an OPA. I would say that the success rate if you went out and targeted OPA would be not too productive. It's an incidental catch. They're great fish to catch, and they really taste good too.
How many feet of fluoro leader should we have on a top of mono?
Well, 3 to 4 feet. The key to that, with a 7-foot rod, you don't want it too long so that it affects you with your connection and your guides and casting. So if you put 15 feet on, then your connection from your hook to your monofilament or your braid when you cast, it's going to have to go through the guides, and so it can hinder you when you're trying to fly line a bait. So it should be from the reel to the tip, it should be less than that, so that it doesn't impact you when you're casting a live bait. And if you go 3 to 4 feet, if you go 4 feet and you catch a fish, then maybe you could cut a foot of that fluorocarbon off and retie a hook and go again. So 3 to 4 feet is what we recommend.
What's the one tackle or personal item that people tend to forget on multi-day trips? A towel.
A towel. Okay. Yeah, that could be one. I'd say bait catchers. We're really, really blessed to have Irvingham Brothers Bait Company provide us with live bait. But there is, I wouldn't say often, but there is a chance that you may have to catch mackerel on your multi-day trip. And so bait catchers with a 2 to 4 ounce torpedo sinker is something that people seem to forget to have in their tackle box. So bait catchers is a fishing tackle thing that people seem to forget.
Do you have a permit to fish Guadalupe this year?
We do. It was issued in late February, so yes, we do.
What was working best for bluefin last season?
Wow, live bait seemed to work the best. If you get on one of those massive schools of bluefin tuna, and it's the right school where you can drift for a while and have them gather around the boat and fly line a live bait out there with 40 to 60 pound test. Live sardine was far and away the best option. We had some really good fishing at night with flat fall lures in late August and September. So that was a lot of fun, and there were stretches that was pretty much the only way to get a bite was fishing at night, right after sunset or right before sunrise was kind of the key times, and there was some really good fishing that was flat fall fishing was effective last year.
What should you spool on a Mac 10?
Mac 10. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that. Maybe Steve Carson knows. The encyclopedia, Mr. Carson.
For someone that signed on late, can you repeat what we intend to do about starting our fishing season?
Well, our schedule is such that we have a 3-day trip leaving the last weekend in June. The boat is going to be prepared to go fishing the first week in June. And we are going to comply with whatever the health department guidelines are as far as starting our fishing season. The Sport Fishing Association of California, Ken Franke, is working with the Public Health Department. He has issued a back to work plan for the fleet, which is going to be reviewed in the next few days by the Board of Directors, and then is going to be submitted to the County Public Health Department here in San Diego. And I'm sure it'll be submitted to other parts of California that SAC represents. And, we anticipate that just based on all the statistics that we're seeing, that I think that June is going to be the month that we get started again. So we're hoping that the restrictions are going to be lifted and we're going to be able to get out there and get started in June.
What's your favorite knot to use for line to hook?
Line to hook. Well, I have my trusty shoestrings here. Line to hook. So there's a couple options. The one that I was taught back 40 odd years ago is the improved clinch knot. So with monofilament up to 40-pound test, I'm not going to get 7 twists, but 6 or 7 twists. Just going to go 4 or 5 here so that I can cinch it down for you. So your tag line, this is your main line, here's your tag line, goes through the loop in the mono, and then a clinch knot you would just pull on your main line and cinch that down. But with the improved clinch knot, you come back through the loop that you made and then you cinch down on your hook. So that's the improved clinch knot. And then the other go-to is the San Diego jam knot. So you need a little bit more of a tag line because you're going to wrap your tag line around your finger and then you're going to go down towards the hook 6 or 7 times. I'm just going to go 3 times here for demonstration purposes because of the size of the shoestring here. So then your tag line goes through the loop in the mono by the hook, and then you're going to come back up and go through the loop that you wrapped around your finger, and you're going to pull on your tag line to cinch it up by the loop that was on your finger, and then you pull on the main line and that cinches it down to the hook. So you end up with your 3 rows nice and clean, and then you're going to cut the tag line off. So that's the San Diego jam knot and the improved clinch knot. So the improved clinch knot, for me, anything 40-pound test or less. Greater than 40 pound, then the San Diego jam knot works the best. Gotten a lot of use out of these shoestrings.
Best braid to mono knot.
Braid to mono is the John Collins knot. We need a different color here. Here's your braid, here's your mono. Make a loop in your mono. Come up, and then you're gonna go 5 times. 5 times up. I'll go 3, but 5 times up. Grab it up here. You need some slack there, and then you go back down 5 times towards the loop in your mono. And then you pull on your tag line so that all these rows line up. Down towards the loop in your mono, just like that, so they're all lined up and clean. And then pull tight on either end. Then you can cut your tag line off. And here's your mono going to your hook, and here's the tag line there. You cut that off. It's a really fast and easy knot to join braid to mono or fluorocarbon. And you can reference all that online. I know that we have handouts online there that show that improved clinch knot and show the braid to mono or fluorocarbon knot, so you can reference that online, searchersportfishing.com.
What's your seeker rod recommendation for surface iron or raider lure, 40 to 50 pound line, and Tranks 500?
Well, if I'm fishing on the surface, then you know, I'm gonna want an 8 to 9 foot rod. So unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the model number of that, but you want an 8 to 9 foot rod so that your length of your cast increases with the length of your rod. And you're fishing the surface, so with the Tranks, you know, with a light surface iron, then you're slow retrieve so that surface iron swims. If you're fishing with a dart style heavy lure, then that 8 to 9 foot rod is you're going to raise the tip up high and turn the handle fast so that your lure skips across the surface, and that's a real effective way to fish with that. And I can reference that model number of 8 or 9 footer for you.
If I have 2 of the same rod and reel for yellowtail, what size line for live bait and what size line for irons?
So for live bait, 25 to 40 pound, and then for lures, you know, it's not a line class issue, so you could use 40 to 60 pound test for lures for yellowtail.
Johan wants to know if you're missing NHL hockey and playing hockey.
Wow, I've been watching the NHL Network and Classic Series off and on during the day. And yes, it's my passion. It's what I love to do on my off time. I could play every day if I could. And I'm still recovering from a little knee surgery back in January. So I wouldn't say I'm quite desperate to get back on the ice, but it certainly would feel good to lace them up. And yes, I miss our local Gulls hockey. It's always nice to see that sport live. And yeah, I miss hockey. Absolutely.
I just have one. Have you ever seen artificial lures outfish live bait?
Absolutely. You know, there are times fishing schools of yellowtail offshore, well, not necessarily offshore, but schools of yellowtail that we find with technology, with our sonar, and they, you know, they don't come up and boil around, but just about every lure that makes it down to the depth that that fish is at is a bite. So yes, I've seen that plenty of times where yo-yo lures for yellowtail absolutely outfish live bait. I've seen that multiple times, so it's not uncommon.
How's Kenny?
Kenny, I talked to Kenny not too long ago. He's recuperating from his other shoulder surgery. You know, with the virus lockdown, he's not able to go to physical therapy appointments, but he's doing virtual stuff and has got plenty of exercise to do at home. And he's progressing, and we're hoping that Kenny makes it back somewhere around the beginning of August.
Real quick, what's your favorite fish to catch and how?
Well, my favorite fish to catch is probably yellowtail on a surface iron, where you can actually watch the fish eat the lure. It's exciting when they're up on the surface like that. So for decades now, that's been my favorite type of fishing, is surface lure for yellowtail on the surface. And so that's been my favorite fish to catch and eat. Happy birthday to Callie. Thank you all for joining us again today for Tackle Talk Live. We're going to be fishing here in a couple months. It'll be here before you know it. We hope that everybody stays healthy and safe. And if you want to make a reservation, searchersportfishing.com or give us a call at the office at 619-226-2403. Thanks again for joining us at Tackle Talk Live.